Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to Questions and Answers. I'm your host for the remainder 20 seconds. 20 seconds? I've been hearing seconds in my ears for so long that I've all now turned into seconds. 20 minutes. Okay, for the next 20 minutes or so on Questions and Answers. It's been very quiet on the phone, so let me remind you of the phone, which is 01274 2124 214299, 01274 214299. Please do get your calls in. It'd be nice to hear somebody else's voice apart from my own. It's quite monotonous after a while. Found out about a chap that on talking about that. I'll give you the number again, and the email address is q&a@ikra.tv. But had a little bit of a surprise. There's a chap who lives on my street, a Sikh fella, and he's a commercial electrician and a commercial gas person, whatever that phrase is. And our madrasa here in Bradford, he used to do the certification for it. So he'd do the service and then he'd do the certification. Last couple of years, I've delegated this to somebody else, but I've not seen him around the madrasa at all. So I think somebody's getting on with it. And then I just remarked now that I've not seen him around for about maybe 6 months or a year around where I live as well. So as I was waiting to come on, I've been very early this week. I've been a very good boy. Because there's no madrasa this week, I've been getting into the studio well early. Today I got in very early because I had a couple of meetings beforehand and I didn't want to get late to the studio. So I set off very early to get my meetings done. And then alhamdulillah, I managed to get here for about 6 o'clock if I'm not mistaken. So I had a good 45 minutes, an hour before I went on to studio, get wired up and everything, and then obviously go live. And the chap here who's come to fix or repair the air conditioning, we just started talking. He asked me a masala about a particular thing, and I gave him the answer. And then we just started talking. So he just explained to me what he does. He's a commercial guy, whatever. So I said, oh, yeah, we have a madrasa as well. And we have a commercial guy who comes over. And I mentioned the guy's name. So he says, oh, have you not heard? And I said, no, I've not heard. He goes, oh, he died. And I said, get away. He goes, yeah, he died. Because I know he used to drink quite a lot. He used to drink a significant amount. Whenever I used to see him, you could smell the odor of alcohol on his breath. And I don't know what happened to him. He kind of gave up living in a way, because he was quite a happy-go-lucky bloke and all the rest of it. And then the last sort of 4 or 5 years, maybe even 6 years, he went into really heavy drinking. And I know he wasn't working as much. I know he was close to retirement as well, because he was probably around 60. But he used to drink a lot. It coincides with the time I think his daughter got married as well. And also he was struggling with work because he felt he was getting old, and he felt that it was a young man's job or a younger man's job. And the chap who was with him decided he wanted to go to uni or go somewhere else. He was a young lad that was with him. So he was left alone to run the business. And I don't really think he was up for it. And then today I find out that he's actually dead. So, it's madness when you hear things like that. It's quite comes as a shock. Now there's another chap that lives on our street, and he's a chap who drinks quite a lot, and he's had trouble with drinking. And again, he was his mother passed away maybe about 6, 7, 8 years ago, and I think he also turned for the worse after his mother passed away. He was leading a normal life. He had a wife and kids. He looked, happy. Everything was sorted. And then suddenly, he separated from his wife and his kids, and he came back to where we live to live with his father. And he started drinking a lot. He used to be a tradesman. He gave up his tradesman. He got a job in the council. And he used to have a council van that he used to drive. And then he crashed his own car on our street, literally drove it into a tree whilst drunk, unfortunately. So he lost his license. Now somebody used to come and pick him up and take him. And the last 2 months or so that I've seen him, he's literally shaking. He literally shakes. So, because he uses our stairs, our house is a bit strange. We've got our house, we've got our garden, and then because we're built on a little hill, your car is parked on the main road, but then there's like that hill bit. So we put some stone stairs in so that you can go up this hill bit. Then there's a pathway, and then you get into our garden to get to our house. But nobody else has invested into stone stairs. So about 3-4 houses that way and about 2 houses that way use our stairs. So about 4-5 houses worth of people use our stairs, which is a bit annoying because of the fact that people end up parking at the bottom of our stairs. So it becomes really difficult when we've done some serious grocery shopping and you've got to walk like, half a mile to get to your house, which is one of the reasons why we're looking to move. But anyway, that aside, and so when I saw him, and I think it was around Eid time, and I said, "Oh, how you doing? You all right?" And your normal answer is, "Yeah, I'm all right." That's the normal answer people give, isn't it? Even if they're not all right. He said, actually, he goes, I'm not doing very well. And he was very honest, and he said, "I'm actually not doing very well at all." And he was shaking. He was shaking like a leaf. So I don't know. And every time I see him, he's come from the local store, and there'll be cans or bottles of alcoholic drinks in his bag. And so I don't know. The man's gonna drink himself to death. He's gonna destroy his liver, and then he's gonna be in a bad place. So there seems to be a lot of folk. I know it might be anecdotal that's happening on my street, but there seems to be folk that are really struggling with drink again. Which kind of, I think we went through a phase where we struggled with drink in the 70s and 80s. And maybe even the 90s, but I thought in the last sort of couple of decades, people had kind of come to terms with alcohol and were managing things, but it doesn't look like it. So I said I had a bit of a shock whilst I was waiting to come on air, and then I started looking at this chap as well and thinking, well, goodness me. Anyway, is it sunnah to leave a green leaf of a date palm on a grave? I think where this question has come from is that when the Prophet ﷺ was traveling past 2 graves, he told his companions to stop and to dismount and explained to them that he can hear the punishment that is being meted out to these people in their graves. And he then takes a small branch or a twig from a date palm tree, splits it into half and plants one in one half and plants the other in the other half. And then he says that I pray that the punishment is lessened for them whilst these remain wet, meaning whilst they remain alive. And then he explains that the person is being punished in the grave for something which they did not think was quite serious, meaning that they had belittled this particular sin. And this is a sin is also, a sin is to belittle a sin. So it's not only that you commit the sin, but if you belittle a sin, that, it's not that much of a sin, it's a small sin, then that itself is a sin, and that's a major sin. So it's quite extraordinary, isn't it, that by thinking a sin is a minor sin is a major sin. So one has to be very, very careful about that kind of understanding or about that kind of mindset. And it's not something which a person should be thinking about. So, and that was the reason why those 2 people were being punished. Now, for someone to say, is it sunnah? Well, the Prophet ﷺ did that. That does not mean it is sunnah. Because not everything the Prophet ﷺ did is a sunnah. That act, if you recall, was knowledge that he had of the unseen. Now, we don't have that knowledge. We're not informed about what's going on inside a grave. We don't know, for example, as to if somebody is suffering anything or not suffering anything. That's something that is beyond. So therefore, we cannot say, oh, we should or should not do this particular act. So as we don't know whether someone is suffering or not suffering, then what we do is say that there is no sunnah on this at all. So one should not practice on this. If it was sunnah, then the evidence would be numerous examples of it during the time of the companions radiallahu anhum. There are no examples of it at all during the time of the companions radiallahu anhum ajma'in. Again, let me remind you all as we enter the last 10 minutes or so of our Q&A. Please, if you do have some questions, now is the time to call, he says as he leans forward, taking a sip of his coffee. The reason why he says now the time to call is because if you do not call now, then we will be running out of time quite quickly. and then there will be very little time for you to explain your question to me, but more importantly, me to be able to give you a response. Let me remind you of the phone number and also the email, and then I will get on with dealing with two more questions which have popped up on my screen. Let me see if there's any other questions on here that have come through, just to be on the safe side, because we're away now for the weekend, and there is no questions that we have here. But I've been told that we have a caller that's called in on 01274 214 299. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Is that young Abdullah from Leicester?
Yeah.
MashaAllah. How are you, Abdullah?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Did you go to school today?
Yeah.
Back at school, eh?
Yeah.
Were you looking forward to it, or were you a little bit hesitant?
A little bit hesitant.
Little bit hesitant, eh? Chalo, you'll get over it, inshallah. School is important. It helps us learn, makes us clever, makes us smart, makes us do clever things, don't you think?
Yeah.
Not so sure. I'm not convinced you, have I? But inshallah, trust me, school is good for you. I went to school and, and look where I am. So inshallah, keep at it. Has your madrasa started, or does that start next week?
No, my madrasa started.
Oh, that started as well. Oh my God, it's a full day, isn't it? Full-time job, isn't it? Don't you think? School and madrasa?
No, not really. It's kind of get used to it.
Long hours. What time do you go to school?
9 to 3:20.
9 a.m. till 3:20. You got to get up early. You got to get ready for school. You got to get to school. So that might be about 8 o'clock, 7:30. What do you think?
Probably like 8.
Yeah, and then you come back. And what time do you go madrasa?
5 to 7.
Look at that. So you're doing nearly 12 hours. That's a long shift. Are you doing anything particular in madrasa? Have you started hifz, or are you still on nazira?
I'm still doing it maktab, no, my maktab.
You're still on your nazira? You're still reciting the Quran?
Yes.
Alhamdulillah. Keep at it, you man. Which para are you on? Which juz are you on?
I'm juz 6.
6. So you got another 24 to do, yes?
Yeah.
You can do this.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Anyway, what question do you have for me, young Abdullah?
My question is gluttony a major sin in Islam?
Gluttony?
Yeah.
Man, have you had something to eat today?
Yeah.
Have you eaten a dictionary?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
You need to check what your mom's cooking for you. Maybe she's cooking dictionaries for you, because you got some long words, Maybe not. Maybe not. But jazakumullah khairan for that question. Really appreciate that, Abdullah. Have a good evening. And also make sure that you have a good and enjoyable weekend. Lots of rest so you're ready for school and madrasa on Monday. Okay?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What a question, yeah? So the question he asked is, we got another caller. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear caller.
Wa alaikum salam.
How are you, my brother?
Brother, I'm okay.
Okay, bismillah. Ask your question.
My question is regarding the prayer.
Yeah, bismillah.
The question is, whilst you're praying salah, is it permissible to raise your hands for dua after?
To raise your hands for dua?
After the prayer.
As in once you finish, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
You finished.
Okay, brilliant. Jazakumullah khair for that question, brother. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. They're like buses, aren't they? Like London buses, they say. They say first you don't get anything, you're waiting there at the bus stop for ages and ages, then suddenly two come at the same time. And that's exactly what happened there. We got two questions coming in. I was just about to introduce the phone number, and we got the questions coming in. So just let me introduce the phone number, because we've got about half a dozen or so minutes left. The phone number is 01274 214299. That's 01274 214299. You do have a couple of minutes to get those calls in if you want to get those calls in. I, in the meantime, will answer the two questions. First, from young Abdullah of Leicester. He asked the question, is gluttony a sin? For those of us like me who aren't too sure what gluttony is where you continuously eat and become obese as a consequence of it. And it's that greed which drives us on. It goes without saying from the way I'm describing it that yes, it is a sin. We aren't supposed to overeat. We're not supposed to oversleep. We're not supposed to do anything which is over. We're supposed to do just enough. Remember, this body that has been given to you is an amana, it's a trust. You are supposed to look after it. It's if I give you a pen to borrow and I say, there you go, you can borrow my pen. I don't expect to get the pen back and it's snapped and the cap's lost and somebody's been chewing on the end and you know, the ink's pouring out. And I'm thinking, okay, what's happened to this? And he said, well, I was using it. I said, well, using it is one thing. You look like you've abused it. This is not using it. So in the same way, when Allah SWT gives you a body, and He gives you the body so that you can move around, you can pick things up, you can worship Allah, and for that purpose He gives us a body. And what do we do when we get that body is we abuse it. Okay, you know, we take things which aren't good for us to take, too much fried food, too much sugary stuff. And what happens is, obviously, we start to put weight on. And now when we look inside us, our heart, which is about here, and our lungs, and our kidneys, and our liver, all these have been made for us when our body is at the right size. When our body gets twice the size it should be, now our liver is working twice as much as it should be. Our kidneys are working twice as hard. And everything is working twice as hard. Now, on top of that, your body, your skeleton, is now having to carry around all this extra weight. So what happens is that we decrease our lifespan as a result of it, but also what we do is we decrease the quality of life that we have. So when we get into our 50s, and when we get into our 60s, and when we get into our 70s, we are struggling to just go up and down stairs. We either have diabetes, we got angina, heart problem, you know, lots of medication. So we basically sit down at the end of the night and we have lots of drugs from the pharmacy, prescribed drugs, medicine from the doctors, and we've got to take this for blood pressure, and we've got to take that for the diabetes, and we've got to take this for the angina, and we've got to take this for this, and we've got to take that for that, and whatever. And we're, you know, eating like a ton of pills just to keep ourselves alive. Now, what kind of a lifestyle is that? You know, and then we're really struggling. We can't sleep at night. We're always in pain. You know, that's not really a good quality of life. Or instead of getting to a nice ripe old age of 80 or 70, we unfortunately die in our 60s, or we die in our 50s, or worse still, we die in our 40s or even younger, because we've not really looked after our bodies. So therefore, it is a sin, without doubt, that we should do that. We should be eating just enough food that keeps us going. And if you realize that, hold on, I think I've eaten too much, then you should be working out. You should be doing some form of fitness so that your heart gets a chance to beat. Okay, one, beat very powerfully, and two, beat often. Because your heart is a muscle, and a muscle needs to be exercised. When a muscle is not exercised, if your heart is just used to beating at 60, 70 beats per minute, and it's never gone past 100 beats per minute, then it's going to get used to that. Okay, but you need to sometimes push it to 100 beats per minute, to 120 beats per minute, to 140 beats per minute, to 160 beats per minute. So that really pushes that muscle there and makes us also our cardiovascular, which means that the blood can go all around our system, because blood moving around our body is good for us, because the oxygen that is carried in the blood makes sure that that goes everywhere, and that is a form of healing. Okay, when we're injured, for example, we want to get blood there. So, you know, putting ice packs on it or whatever, we want to make sure the blood comes to the part of our body that's injured, because that's where it's going to cure it. That's where it's going to get better. So that, I hope, answers that question. The second question that we had was, the brother asked, is can we raise our hands in supplication, in dua, after we have finished our salah? Yes, that has been documented, that the Prophet ﷺ raised his hands generally when making dua. And as after salah is a place of making dua, then we can raise our hands at that point as well. I've already explained previously about we shouldn't always think that there is a jama dua, as we tend to do. It's permissible to do jama dua every now and then, but to fix it as a ritualistic act, that is wrong, and that is something that we should avoid. So Jazakumullah khairan, Abdullah, you came good. I thought you weren't going to make it today. You know, I wasn't going to call you out because I didn't want to upset you. But I thought, where's our Abdullah? He's done 3 days in a row, or 2 days in a row. He's going to make it a hat trick. And you did. You came good, alhamdulillah. So Jazakumullah khairan for all our callers today, yesterday, and the day before. May Allah bless you all. May you be a means for educating others who may not call in. We are now going to take your leave, take your permission, and disappear into the sunset. Well, maybe a little bit earlier than the sunset, but disappear into the upcoming sunset, and ask for you to make dua for us. I've been told it's cloudy, so maybe disappear into the clouds. And we look forward to see you all again next week. Same time, same place, Iqra TV, Bradford, and we will be delivering our questions and answers. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you contentment, may He give you ease, may He forgive you your sins, and may He resurrect you amongst the Salihin, the Siddiqeen, the Shuhada, and also the Anbiya, and those pious Salihin that have already passed away. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.